Greetings. Okay, today we are on the book of Mark. We're going to begin with the author. The book of Mark was penned by Mark, who was not an apostle, but he was the companion of Apostle Peter. We see Apostle Peter calling him his son in his epistle. And he was the cousin of Apostle Barnabas in the book of Acts, and he was the cause of the separation or the division between Apostle Paul and Barnabas, because Mark he accompanied Apostle Paul in his first missionary journey with Barnabas. Then he deserted them on the way. Then on their second missionary journey, then Barnabas wanted Paul to take Mark with them. And Paul didn't want to take someone who deserted them on the way. That's where Apostle Paul and Apostle Barnabas was there was a division. There was a division amongst each other because of Apostle Mark. Because of Mark, not Apostle. Then because Mark was the cousin of Barnabas. Right. So now we are going on to the background of the book of Mark. The background is kind of not that intense like the book of Matthew, because Mark is writing primarily to the Gentiles. He is writing to he is writing his gospel to the Gentiles. Unlike Matthew wrote his gospel to the Jews, but Mark wrote it to the Gentiles, particularly to the Roman Gentiles. So now the reason why there is a support of this thing where there is a claim that Mark is writing to Gentiles is because the book itself supported the view. Number one, the first thing that we see is because Mark himself, he tend to translate Aramaic terms in his gospel. Number two is because he reckoned time according to Roman system. Number three, we see that he wrote to Gentiles because he explained the Jews' custom. For example, when he talked about washing of hands, he explained it carefully to his readers because he knows that the Gentiles is not familiar with Jews' custom, unlike Matthew. But Matthew didn't explain anything regarding Jews' customs because he knew that his readers they are very much familiar with Jews' customs and all that. The last proof that Mark wrote to the Gentiles is that he omitted all the Jewish systems such as genealogies of Jesus Christ, unlike Luke and Matthew. So he doesn't include the genealogy of Christ, where he was born, and all of those details as the other one. And he also does not refer most on Old Testament verses. He doesn't quote more of Old Testament. He refer very little to Old Testament quote or reference. So now, when it comes to the theological background of the gospel, we see that Mark presents Jesus Christ as the suffering servant of God. So the book has the repetition word over and over again, the word that says immediately, immediately, immediately. The reason why Mark was always saying immediately is because he wanted to present Christ as the moving and action based book for his Gentile readers, because Gentiles like Romans, they want something that is practical, tangible, not teaching like Jewish. So Mark, unlike the book of Matthew and Luke, he focuses more on the practical or the deeds of Jesus Christ, not his teaching. He omitted a lot of Christ's teaching. He omitted the Sermon on the Mount and other teachings of Jesus Christ, and he summarized the parables as much as he could. So Mark is not that interested in the teaching of Jesus Christ, but he presents Christ as a servant because he focuses more on the deeds of Jesus Christ, his miraculous, his healings and all that. Lastly, on the book of Mark, Mark he represents the humanity of Jesus Christ. We know that Jesus Christ, there is a dual nature of Christ, and we know that Jesus Christ have two natures in him. He has his divinity and his humanity. In his divinity, we know that Jesus Christ is God incarnate. He is God, and he is man. He is fully God and he is fully man. But in the Gospel of Mark, we see that Mark present the humanity side of Jesus Christ. Although people were against his humanity, so Mark present him that he was a man like all of us. Although he was God, but he was a man also. We see him exposing the emotions of Jesus Christ, where he was sad and where he was compassionate towards others. That's why we have an insight into his humanity. And lastly, he exposes Jesus' limitations, like where he was hungry, where he was asleep, where he fall asleep, and all that things. So Mark exposes that Jesus Christ was man who can get hungry and who can sleep and all that, and who have emotions. Thank you so much. Until we meet next time.